It's time to turn down the noise and tune into this special edition of News You Can Use. Your host is Dr. Nick, the incrementalist, a longtime innovator exploring incremental changes across various industries that can be applied in healthcare. Combining the powers of observation and real-world experience, Dr. Nick makes the case that innovations in healthcare can be accomplished incrementally, not just by moonshot events. Now, here is Dr. Nick.
In this week's special edition of News You Can Use on Healthcare Now Radio, I sat down with Adam Russo, and he is the CEO and founder of Phia, so that we could explore their company and the whole benefits morass. Adam, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick. It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
So, as I do with all my guests, I'd like to just get a little bit of context. You've been in this space for a while. But tell us a little bit about your history, how you got here, and, why you got here. Why this space and why you do this?
So, I appreciate the question, and I'll try to keep it as short as I possibly can. But, it isn't like I woke up when I was 12 and I said, I'm going to be a healthcare attorney fighting the good fight to reduce overall healthcare. That wasn't it at all. I'm first generation born in this country. My mom and moved here from Poland. My dad came from Sicily. So, English was a second language for my mom, and it was very hard for her to, they went through a divorce. So it was very hard for her to deal with the court system, the probate court, getting, all the issues that surround divorce and custody battles. And I saw that my mom was having a very hard time. And in our neighborhood that I lived in, everyone was Polish. It's a Polish neighborhood in Boston. So, and there were no Polish attorneys. So I thought, it'd be good to become an attorney so I could be a voice and advocate for people like my mom, who are in very similar situations.
Right.
So while I was in college, I applied for a job, and I happened to be working for an attorney who was a self-funded health plan expert. Like, how random is that?
Right.
But I worked there from the time I was 18 until I graduated law school. And I did everything from answering phones, handling cases, and selling, actually being a salesperson for his organization. Yep. And that's where I realized how much abuse, fraud, overcharges, how the healthcare system, which is over 15% of our entire economy, connected in some way, it's so different than every other aspect of our economy. Speaking of from a consumer standpoint,
Yep.
Like, you can go on Amazon and get everything, every quality metric, every pricing component, every review on a toothpick. But if I want to get a knee surgery, to get that same type of information easily accessible on Amazon or a bunch of other places is almost impossible to do in a healthcare space. So that's when I realized, I think I could build a better mousetrap, data analytics, scrubbing data, and identify situations where health plans, self-funded health plans most importantly, could actually find ways to reduce their overall healthcare spend. Because every year, as you know, it isn't like anyone, I've never heard of anyone tell me, a CFO or a head of HR, that they had their annual meeting for their renewal with their insurance broker,
right,
and that their rates were going to go down.
Spoiler alert, never happened. Yep.
And I believe that you can do that. And just so everyone knows, I am not a broker. I'm an attorney. I founded the Phia Group back in 2000 in my mother's basement with my best friend from college, Mike Bronco, who has since retired. And we started the company with a total investment of $8,000. Never got a loan, never acquired anyone, purely organic growth. And we have over 300 people today, serving over 20 million lives in their self-funded space. Everything from school districts to small employers to large, well-known brands across the country, across the world, and everything in between. And what I can tell you is by looking at the data and looking at how plans are designed, there is no question that unlike almost every other industry, there's still so much fat, so much bloat, there's so much just waste in the entire healthcare system that, quite frankly, I would say 99% of the listening public has no idea about. And that's what we're trying to bring to light and change in this country.
So certainly one of my areas of passion, and let's just share a little bit of common heritage. So I too, first generation immigrant to this country, and in fact struggled a little bit like your parents. And, so I immigrated and I came from a completely different system. And, I think I had the, wait, what? Reaction that I think you did with regards to healthcare. The more I sort of got exposed to it, and that was despite being in the system. So I have complete and utter sympathy. I mean, I'm still doing that to this day. It's shocking to me how terrible this is. For the benefit of the listeners, I think most people don't understand how, and I'm not talking going back to the sort of the original reasons. We're here because this is the system we have. We have insurance, not looking to sort of explain that, but we have this, as you described, insurance brokers and folks that are delivering. And, as you pointed out, it's shocking, but not once do we ever hear them come to you and say, hey, I'm reducing your costs and I'm going to deliver more benefits. That just never happens.
Right.
Can you briefly explain?
Like...
Can you briefly explain how this system works for the benefits of people that are sitting on the other side of this, which is consuming it as employees typically?
I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can. Think of it this way, right? So I recently, actually yesterday, purchased a 50-inch Samsung flat screen television for, I think, $350.
Right.
Okay? 50 inch. 10 years ago, that TV is $15,000.
Right.
Same TV.
Yeah.
So why did the price go down?
Heavier.
Lot thicker, it's insane, right? You just plug them in now and, connect it to Wi-Fi, smart TVs, the whole thing, right? They have all your information, but that's a separate topic for a separate show.
Right.
Bottom line is the prices have gone down. Why? G advances. Things get better. Things are made cheaper. Things are more efficient. Then you have consumers who go out there and are smart, know what they're looking for. They can shop. They go on one website and compare 30 different TVs, different sizes, everything, right there on the screen. So the prices of televisions have dropped dramatically. In addition, in healthcare and health insurance, the world, LASIK surgery, eye surgery. So I had a LASIK. I didn't realize that a period of time that it works, and then it stops working, okay? Like less than about 10 years span. Well, when I got LASIK, I remember it was like $5,000 per eye.
Right.
Expensive.
Yep.
But it was never covered by health insurance. Not covered. So what have you seen on the price of LASIK? Dramatically down. Why? It goes back to the TV. Consumerism. Buy one eye, get one free. I mean, whatever you can think of. Like this consumerism. There are different quality metrics. Because why? It's not covered by your health insurance. Any medical procedure not covered by health insurance, what we have seen are prices for those goods and services go down.
Come down. Yep.
But when it's covered by health insurance, we've seen prices either stay the same or go up, even though everything else is dropping in price with technology.
Right. So
what's the difference? The difference is consumerism. There is no consumerism when it comes to our health plan design. Just think of this, Nick. Your health insurance expense is typically the second largest expense for any company behind, salary, okay, payroll. Yet most employers spend less than 5 hours in a whole year looking at their healthcare spend and trying to find ways to innovate. They don't. What do? Every single CFO says, we want to reduce, price, the cost. Okay. They go to HR. But HR is very well aware that any change to incentivize people, to turn patients into consumers, to educate the general staff, to educate the staff and their family members. I hate the word dependents. I use the word family members. It's a lot of work. It's more work for HR. So you have HR wanting to keep the status quo because they just want things quiet. They don't want a lot of noise. But then you have the CFO putting pressure to reduce the cost. And all this money is being spent by every single one of these employers. They're all doing the same thing. They're hiring a broker who they feel has the expertise. And that broker is going to lead them in the right direction when it comes to better benefits, reducing reducing costs, etc. But I've been doing this for 26 years. So more than half my life. And I have yet to see a plan take a 3 to 5 year action plan when it comes to their health spend and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to redesign the plan to incentivize people to care about the quality and cost of care. We're going to educate them. We're going to incentivize them to care. And we're going to make our population as healthy as we possibly can.
Right.
No one is doing that.
No. And to be clear, the brokers in here are incentivized in a way that doesn't, engender, good, let's call it good behavior, because they're paid as a percentage of the fees that are essentially charged as a result. So their incentive is to see this go up. There is, it's CAFA-esque.
And also, Nick, to add to that, they have no incentive to do it. But even more importantly, I like to use the word reasonable. Everything is from a litigation standpoint, right?
I'm just going to say, every lawyer on this planet uses that word.
Right,
reasonable behavior.
So if you're a broker, any other broker is saying to their clients, we're going to increase premium by 5%, 10%. We're going to increase copay. We're going to increase deductible. If everyone else is doing it, then you're being reasonable. You can still, you don't have to take that extra step, because all the stuff that we do, a lot of it initially is not easy. It's hard. It's work.
Right.
But what I can tell you is, in my organization, we set up a plan 15 years ago so that one day we would be able to offer all of our employees and everyone in their family not only free health insurance, but the highest quality care, the best type of care, which would make it, if you would think, even more expensive. If anything, we've turned it around, and it all starts from a plan design aspect. What you cover, what you don't cover. The funny thing I always thought is, let's just say you are one of the large insurance carriers, right? Let's just, whatever, United. They represent tens of thousands of employers all over the country. So they represent everything from a yoga studio with 10 yoga instructors who are all vegans and don't drink, to a union plan of truck drivers, 80% obese, most of them on some kind of medication and not very healthy. Can you tell me, Nick, why both employers that I just described have the same benefit plan design?
No,
that's how it is.
Absolutely not. But to your point, I mean, the benchmark is the standard of what's happening elsewhere. And because nobody has sort of moved this needle, except for a few exceptions, and obviously Phia is one of those exceptions, you've sort of teased a little bit of the plan and, some of the things that you're doing. So help the listeners understand how, I mean, as a consumer, so as an employee and therefore patient and whatever, my control is through my employer. But obviously for the CEOs, CFOs especially, who, to be clear, are not asking the right questions, or maybe they are asking the questions, but they're not getting the answers. But how do they approach this so that they can turn this around? Because if you go based on the benchmark, you're just going to get the same dog food, and it's not going to fulfill any of the things that you're describing, which, to be clear, anybody that tells me, hey, we've got better healthcare, it's zero cost, there's nobody on this planet nobody on the US planet, to be clear. In other countries, different story, but nobody is going to say, oh, no, I don't want that. I want to pay more. So you're teasing this beautiful thing. How do we get there? How do they achieve this?
Simple. The first thing you have to do is actually look at your claims data, raw data. Your data on your healthcare spend is going to tell you everything forward. So, for example, if I looked at my past 5 years of data, or even last year's claims data, again, you're not looking at individual people. You don't know, oh, Joanne over there has this disease. You're looking at claims. And what you're going to find is a very small percentage of volume in your claims makes up 90% of the expense.
Big percentage, right?
So, for example, I'll give you a simple one, okay? Let's say I have 100 employees, and one of them, celiac. A hemophilia, you're going to be over $1 million a year in claims, guaranteed, $2 million.
Yep.
Now, if I was the CFO or if I'm the HR, and I'm looking at all the data, I'm like, but for this one claim, this one person's claims, we're actually trending in the right direction.
Right,
What programs out there are there that we could put in to help this hemophiliac going forward? And there are plenty of programs. You can literally go to the Cayman, as an example, go to the Cayman Islands, to, I think it's called Cayman Health City or something, I forget what it's called.
Right, yep.
And 3 times a year, bring the whole family, stay at a 5-star hotel resort, all expenses paid.
Right.
You get your blood work done there, first class, everything, and it's going to cost you under $250,000, $2 million right now. That's a simple little thing that you can do. But one of the key things I tell people is till you get the members of your plan, the people on your plan, to be incentivized to care about the quality and cost, everything we're talking about is a waste of time.
Right.
Now, what do you mean by incentivized? I mean, pay them.
Yep.
Literally give them cash for every time. So the thing we did was saying, okay, for every mistake, everything on your medical bill, if you find an error, an overcharge, anything, we will give you 20% in cash of the amount of money that you were able to reduce.
I love it.
Off the bill.
You've just mobilized the whole workforce to go seeking errors. Yep.
That's it. So what happened was the first person, and I can't make this up, it's crazy, was the head of HR noticed that her son's hospital bill, and again, this is not something we would have noticed, only she knew that he was not in a private room. He was not in a private room, yet they were billing as a private room. She identified it. She got a check for over $50,000.
Wow.
That's the 20%.
Yeah, that's the 20%.
When people do those things, it spreads. It spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And more people caring about, hey, wait a second, this drug the doctor's telling me to take, it's $1,000 a month. Is there a generic I could take? Is there another brand I could take that might be cheaper? And it just keeps on growing. And it got to a point where now, I'm going to ask you a question, Nick. Just a simple question. In Eastern Massachusetts, all right, I'm going to say there are, I'm making this up. Let's say there are 40 hospitals that you can deliver normal birth. What do you think the range is of what it costs to deliver that baby on the bill? What's the range?
I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you anything from about $500 to $1,000, all the way up to easily $70,000.
Okay, so you're pretty close. You're better than most. The average that we see, the range we see, is 11,000 to 67,000. It's the same baby. The same baby's coming up. It's not any better looking at this one hospital. And then you say, okay, well, how about quality? Well, we have all the quality metrics.
Yeah.
It's not like buying a car. $100,000 hospital bill or hospital stay does not necessarily mean that same stay at a $20,000, that one is 5 times better. It's not. Yeah. A lot of times we find that the higher the bill, the lower the quality.
Right.
So here's what we did, Nick. We looked at all the hospitals, and how do women, moms, decide what hospital they're going to deliver the baby at? How do people decide where to go? My mom went there. I was born there. My sister works there.
Right.
Because all people are thinking about is their copay and deductible. That's it. If they actually cared about the whole bill, here's what we did. we said, okay, and this was 10 years ago. It's called the Diapers and Wipes Program. We said this. Every year we identified 3 hospitals. You don't have to go because it's a network, right? You go to any hospital you want. But if you choose one of these 3, we're going to pay for the diapers and the baby wipes for a year on us. 76 babies born, 76 babies born at a high-quality, low-cost hospital.
Yep.
That alone has saved us $3.5 million.
Oh, I don't doubt it for a second. And just in fairness, I need to defend my low-end bill estimate because when I first arrived here, I was fortunate to have fantastic insurance because I worked for a hospital, and we had our first baby, and it cost us nothing. Which was quite the shock when you see what's going on now. But I just think outstanding. I think the incentive of the mobilizing your team is just an extraordinarily clever move.
And the funny thing is,
if you could, to sort of wrap up, tell us what you've got going on at your company and, what the story is. Because as I mentioned before, you eat your own dog food.
Right. Here's what I can tell you. The first thing we did is we looked at what the cost is to us to recruit, hire, onboard, and train new employees. And we also know that typically it's 6 months before that new employee is at this part where the former employee left. It costs us, this is my company, $24,000 to bring in a new person.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
The average healthcare spend at my company last year per employee was $16,000. 16. So I'm better off finding ways to keep good employees.
Right.
So what do? We said it's free. No premium. No deductible. No copay. Nothing for you and your family, but you got to stay here. You got to be here. So you have people that want to stay, and as our company is growing, so is our workforce. Yeah. Our workforce, 20 years ago, it was a bunch of 20-year-olds. Those 20-year-olds, like me, are now in their 40s and 50s. Well, guess what? I have 4 kids now and a wife. What's important to me is different than it was 20 years ago. Yep. So as we see our employees grow into better positions, higher positions, more money, they want stability. And by offering the best healthcare possible, we ensure that no one ever wants to leave this place. And if anything, people want to come.
Right.
So it's the opposite approach of all the plans that we design, where every year copays go up, deductibles go up, etc. And I know we don't have time for it today, but direct primary care was probably the best thing that we put in place 6 years ago. And again, paid in full by us.
And to be clear, the physicians on the other side of that table are going, this is great. I get relationship. I get paid appropriately.
You actually have time to get to know your patients. It's awesome.
Unfortunately, as we do each and every show, we're running out of time. I just want to highlight a couple of things. First off, the outstanding piece of advice for anybody listening to say, here's what you can do today, because to get to the point of free, to be clear, nothing is free, but free to your employees is difficult, but incentivizing folks to go after those errors is just a gem. I mean, I have to say that is like, we should have that rolled out across the universe. It's so brilliant.
I know. And that's the biggest game changer. And I can tell you, it's a 5-year process for us to be able to offer the free benefits.
And to be clear, it's
year 1.
Step 1. But you've set out a plan and a clear capacity to deliver something that I think anybody listening to this show, if they're not going, wait, what's the name of the company? Where's their application process? I don't think that's outstanding. I mean, just outstanding. I think you've given us a lot to think about. But unfortunately, as we do, we have run out of time. And it just remains for me to say thank you for joining me on the show. It's been a true pleasure. Adam, thanks for joining me on the show.
Hey, Nick, thank you so much for having me. I hope I brought something to your listeners today that they can learn. But like I said, it's a long process, but just doing the same thing we've been doing is not going to change. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And I believe that there is a definite winning, successful blueprint that more and more employers should start taking a look at. So thank you again.